Would you like to discover, learn even, how to deliver a memorable message in any environment so that people listen and take note? Well, if that sounds good to you, then come and join me for my free 7-day Speaking with Impact practice series. This new format, over 7 days, I'm going to give you a daily task, tactic, reframe that you can practice, literally practice in your workplace, in your day-to-day conversations, in your business, so that you can speak with greater impact, so you can deliver a memorable message, so that you can be heard every single time you speak. In the 7 days, we'll also have 2 coaching calls, so you can get all of your questions answered, and we can even work through your specific scenarios. Hey, Kat, I had this issue in a boardroom conversation yesterday, or hey, Kat, I was trying to do a reel and it just bombed. Whatever those scenarios are, that's what the coaching sessions are for. So it's a free 7-day practice series, because you know how you learn any new skill? You practice. You practice. And speaking is a skill that can be learned by everyone. And so that's why I've designed the 7-day Speaking with Impact practice series. The link is in the show notes. We kick off on the 27th of January. It runs from the 27th of Jan to the 2nd of Feb. And it's just going to be delicious. It really is. It's going to be delicious. So if you would like to deliver your messages with far more oomph this year while still being authentic, while not having to be anybody else, then come and join us. It's going to be fabulous. With that said, welcome. Welcome to Speaking with Confidence. My name is Kat Matson, and on this show I teach humble, impact-minded leaders, whether you're a public servant, a business owner, or a fellow corporate hippie like me. I teach you how to speak with authority, with authenticity, with confidence, and with impact. And today we are talking about the topic that I feel like I speak about the most: how to stop rambling and make your point. How to stop rambling and make your point. The reason we're talking about this one today, and if you're a regular listener, yes, you've possibly heard variations of this theme, but tune in, because you can't learn less. You can't learn less, and there will be something here for you. But the reason we're talking about this one today is because over the Christmas break, I sat down and analysed the customer data that I have received from well over 2,000 people, as I've asked them the question, what's your biggest challenge when it comes to speaking? And rambling, talking in circles, data dumping, going off on tangents, drowning my audience in all of the information, they they come up a lot. They come up a lot. So I wanted to address it today: how to stop rambling and make your point. Now, in last week's episode, I talked about the nervous system response, what happens and why our mind goes blank when we're speaking under pressure. And rambling can sometimes be a pressure response as well. So if you haven't listened to that episode yet, I highly recommend that after you finish this one, it doesn't matter, you don't need to listen in order, but go back and have a listen to that episode 181, what happens when your mind goes blank? Why does your mind go blank when you're speaking under pressure? One of the other reasons that we ramble is because we think in pictures. I don't know about you, but when somebody asks me a question, particularly about something I'm really excited about, like innovation or startups, or even why I to run this particular business, or all of the things that it takes to market a business, whatever. Like I could talk a lot about a lot of things. But when people ask me a specific question, I will immediately go to the great big mind maps in my mind, or the great big whiteboards in my mind, or the great big things. If you're watching the video, you can see my 2026 calendar on the wall. I think in pictures. And so when somebody asks me a question, I will want to give them all of the pictures that are in my head. I will want to tell them about not only that picture, but that time when I did this, or, the reason why I love startups is because of everything that I learned when I was Chief Digital Officer, or there are so many things that I want to tell you when somebody asks me a question. And when I think in pictures, then those pictures need to be coloured in detail. So we ramble because we're trying to describe the pictures that we're seeing in our heads. And the more we look at all of those pictures in our heads, the more we look at those whiteboards in our minds, we also then see all of these related details. And so we want to go down all of the different rabbit holes and down all of the different tangents because I don't want you to miss out on a thing. The problem is when people are asking us a question, when we're trying to convey information, they don't want to know everything that we know about the subject. They just want to know the piece that they need right now. For example, right now, you want to know how to stop rambling. You don't want to know how to craft a speech. You don't want to know how to develop your stage presence. You don't want to know how to have greater presence in meetings. You just want to know how to stop rambling. So the quickest way to stop rambling is to begin with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind. What does my listener need right now? Either what are they asking for or what do I want them to get? The second question that I then ask is, what's the gap? What's the gap between that end and where they are now? And then the third question is, how do I bridge that gap in just 3 simple messages or less? Now, the reason we do 3 messages, and yes, I talk about this a lot, is because we do not have the mental capacity to deal with any more than 3 new pieces of information. And so when I can bring my information down to 3 pieces of information, I'm narrowing my focus. I'm choosing which of the pictures I'm going to share with you. I'm sharing which of the details I'm going to pass on. And I'm giving you enough information that you can move forward rather than all of the things that I possibly know. One of the things that I know this is true for neurocomplex people is we often feel like one more detail is important. Oh, but let me just tell you about this story. Let me just tell you about this other time that this happened. Oh, and then there was this piece as well. That might be fine when you're having conversations over lunch with the girlfriends or when you're bouncing back and forward. But in a professional context, all that tends to do is overwhelm people. So if you are prone to rambling, just remind yourself that one more detail is not more. One more detail, in fact, is often the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's that one piece that has people go, oh, this is too much, and I've now lost what she said at the beginning. Now, this is all good and well to say in theory, but what happens if you find yourself rambling? I find myself rambling all the time, and I teach people how not to. If you find yourself rambling, own it. Just own it and say, oh my goodness, I just went off on a bit of a ramble. Or sorry, I'm rambling. Let me just come back to the point. I learnt this particular technique in communicating with my son, who he's a rambler. He's a rambler. And I would get overwhelmed with all of the information because I was trying to make sense of it. And he was bouncing from left to right to up to down to step 1 to step 100 and, 10 steps in between and then unrelated things. And I was just trying to find the through line. When I realized that this was how he processes the world and I didn't actually need to find the through line, he would ask me at the end. I was able to sit with a softer listening. And so from a speaking perspective now, when I find myself rambling, I'm recognizing that that's the same thing happen. I'm bouncing around in my mind. And so to take the pressure off my listener in finding the through line, what I will say is, I'm rambling. Let me just come back to my point. Or, I'm rambling. Let me just continue thinking aloud for a moment while I clarify my thoughts. I'll come back to what I'm trying to say in a moment. Signaling this processing lets your listener soften. They know that they don't have to make sense of this current piece of information. They can just be with you. Now, is this going to be acceptable all the time? No, you'll find people who are really impatient and they won't appreciate that. But 9 times out of 10, assuming that you're hanging out with nice, reasonable people, signaling that will make a massive difference. Even if it's as simple as saying, I'm rambling. The point of that last bit was to say this. And so you come back to your 3 key messages. The other piece that I do want to wrap up, and I'm aware that I've now given more than 3 messages, so I'm just going to touch on it, is a reminder that rambling is often a symptom of being nervous. And we talked about the nervous system response in last week's episode. So go back and have a look at that if that is why you think you ramble. But it's highly likely that the reason you ramble is because that's how you think. It's not because you have a disorganized mind. It's because you have a full mind. It's because you are passionate. It's because you've collected a lot of information and a lot of experience and a lot of expertise over the years, and you want to share that with other people. Just recognize that you don't need to share it all at once. 3 messages at a time is enough. I mentioned at the top that we kick off the 7-day Speaking with Impact practice series. And if you find yourself to be a rambler, if you want to be more impactful when you speak without having to undergo, a brain transplant, if you still want to be yourself and speak with more impact, then that's you are perfect. Like that is who the 7-day Speaking with Impact practice series is for. It is for people who want to be heard, who are done with trying to fix themselves, because goodness knows you do not need to be fixed. It's just about working with who you are, working with your mind as it is, and still making yourself heard. And over 7 days, 7 short, easy lessons, techniques, frameworks, practices that you can literally take into your conversations that day, and you can practice. You can practice, because that is how we learn new skills, through practice. But not scary practice, not standing on a stage practice, not coming up with a fake presentation practice, just literally communicating in day-to-day conversations. We'll also have 2 live group coaching calls where you get all of your questions answered, and all of the opportunities to work out loud will come up in those sessions. So the link is in the show notes for that. So please join us. One last favour I do have, and I ask this pretty much every episode now, is if you enjoyed this episode, and the fact that you're still listening at the end tells me that you probably did, could you rate it, leave a review, or share it, or follow it, subscribe? Those little signals just make the algorithm realize that this is valuable content, and it will then share it with other people who are looking for things like how to stop rambling, how to speak to be heard, how to make an impact. And in that way, when you signal that the podcast is good, you share it with your people, then more people get the benefit. So thank you in advance. With that said, I look forward to seeing you again on another episode very, very, very soon. Here's to confidence, and here's to impact. I'll catch you soon.